Well, I mean, what we were talking about was the Smirnoff pattern that was being used, and this is the mind control device that can put voices in people's heads or control emotions. Interestingly, this pattern has been bought by a company called Cytec. Cytec, if you look into it, it's a remote viewing organisation that's run by Ingo Swann and John B. Alexander. But if you look at the financing, basically it's a CIA-run organisation. Anyway, the two techniques that Smirnoff was going to use was putting voices into people's heads and trying to sort of control their emotions. And the two suggestions that he made was, one, to have the voices of the Branch Davidians' family members disguised by the sounds of engines, basically luring them out, saying, please come home, please come home, please come home. And then the other tactic that was going to be used on David Koresh was God was going to speak to him, directly to him, and instruct him on what to do. And they even went so far as to actually employ an actor to go through these lines and pretend to be God. They actually went and got Charlton Heston and recorded him a script using him as the voice of God. And so they were going to use this, but basically Smirnoff said in the end, it might go wrong. They might end up slitting each other's throats. You know, it's not actually definitely going to work, and so the ATF decided that it was probably far more humane to set them on fire instead, to be quite honest. The interesting thing about the fire is that basically, I don't know whether other people are aware of this, but the fire at the Branch Davidian compound happened on April the 19th. April the 19th is also when the Oklahoma bombing happened. Now, within certain occult practices, I'm not trying to tar everybody with the same brush, but in certain occult practices, April the 19th is a fire festival, so it is utilized as a human sacrifice using fire. Don't know whether that's connected, but this certainly seems to be an aspect of the dates. The 20th of April, which is obviously the day after, that's the day that the Columbine incident took place on. It's also the anniversary of Hitler's birthday, and it's also the anniversary of the beginning of the precursor to MK Ultra, which was called Operation Bluebird. So, you know, are these dates significant? I think they very, very possibly are. The final aspect that I wanted to talk about Waco was the way that David Koresh was actually portrayed in the media. Now, during the actual stint in the compound, he actually had short hair, but during the media portrayal of him, all that they showed was him preaching and standing at the front of sermons with very long hair and sometimes with sort of a beard as well. And I just think that's quite interesting because essentially that goes towards the framing of him as a cult leader by essentially trying to make him look a little bit like Jesus. Now, the concept of a cult, the word cult is utilized in the same way that the word conspiracy theorist is utilized. Basically, if you say that you're a cult member or this group is a cult, immediately the majority of people switch off, and it is a way for you to be derisive of them and to basically dismiss them as an organization. So when people are framed as a cult, like in the Branch Davidian case and stuff like that, it immediately puts the mainstream in a frame of mind. Now, the interesting comparison to other cults is, well, what's the most famous cult in the world, or what's the cult that destroyed the concept of hippies and the concept of communal living? It's the so-called Manson cult. Now, again, whether that was a genuine cult, whether there was elements that were connected with mafia drug organizations and certain other things, that's for another time maybe. But the interesting thing about Charles Manson was he was also positioned in the same way. He was denied a razor and was denied scissors, so that when he made his appearances in court, he had long hair. When he made his appearances in his interviews with Charlie Rose, he had a beard and long hair. He actually complains about it. And again, what they're doing is, in the mainstream, they're positioning these people to look like the Western concept of Jesus, and therefore then it ties in with this understanding that we are presented with the mainstream media of an evil cult, of a mind control cult. And again, this is not necessarily the case. This is a way, and this is one of the other aspects of Waco. It was, again, like Ruby Ridge, like all these other things, regardless of the other aspects of the case, it's used to demonize the concept of communal living or living outside of the mainstream. Basically, oh, these guys are a bit strange, these are a bit weird. And then almost, in that sense, that concept is then heightened to in some way justify the terrible actions that took place. And I will reiterate again, basically, at Waco, they set fire to the building, the ATF set fire to the building, and then they shot anybody that was trying to escape.
like in Jonestown, more or less.
Very much like in Jonestown.
Um, I seem to recall seeing a documentary a long time ago, and I felt as if I heard clips of David Koresh talking during the siege.
Yeah.
From my memory, it's as if he was talking. He got messages from God. He was wounded, and he really was taking it very well. I mean, he wasn't angry or
Yeah,
swearing.
well, other people have mentioned that aspect, that basically he was wounded and he seemed to be very strong in it. And was he under some sort of hypnotic sort of control? Was this a triggered personality or such? Apparently, he was decoding the seven seals, which was some sort of prophetic writing and such like that. So again, that was sort of put up. I remember I was a lot younger when it happened, and I remember basically when it happened, it was almost like they were saying he was going to. They killed him before he could reveal what was in these seven seals. So whether that was a code or whether that was true, or who knows? But again, it was the positioning of him as crazy. A lot of the tapes didn't come out until afterwards. There was basically children in there begging the ATF to not go in and shoot them, begging them to let them go free and stuff like that. It was, the whole thing was really, really despicable. I mean, they asked, some of the things that they did, regardless of whether you believe that they were shot back at or not, strafing children and stuff like that, it was absolutely despicable. But again, with these events, I think that is almost the point of it. The point is for a lot of the populace to stand up and go, well, that's outrageous, that's despicable, that's monstrous, look at the way that the government have got away with this. And the government will essentially turn around and go, yeah, well, what are you going to do about it? Nothing. That's what you're going to do about it. And if you complain too much, we're going to put you in a compound, we're going to call you a white supremacist, we're going to say that you're raping children or whatever, and we're going to justify our actions in murdering you too. And so this is why you've always got to be careful with the sort of portrayal of people in the media as to what the actual what is the true representation of this group or these people.
Somebody amongst us all who seems to have extra powers or extra insights. Perhaps these are the people that end up leading cults in some way.
Yeah, very possibly. I mean, again, it comes down to what is the concept of a cult. I mean, because the term cult is used to was any religious leader could be termed by another religious faction as a cult. Do you know what I mean? Because they don't specifically believe in their ideology. Anybody that attracts a following could be called a cult leader. I think that the distinction between a cult leader and just maybe a teacher or something like that is the arrogance and the overbearing control aspect. And again, I'll just come back to the concept of the term cult. The term cult is like conspiracy theorist. It's used to denigrate whoever it is. So if you've got, you're absolutely right, Morris, if you've got a very, very wise teacher, or you've got somebody, even people like John Lennon, or something like that are standing up and saying, you know what, we shouldn't be killing each other. You know what, we should be being nice to each other. And then you'll get that aspect in the media. I'm sure that just before his death, there was magazine articles and stuff like that saying, is John Lennon becoming a cult leader? Aspects of him, they tied him in with going to see the gurus in India and basically and his comments against supposed comments against Christianity, and position him as a cult leader. I mean, this is the concept, it's a conceptual idea.
Listen, Neil, we should stop there. We're lucky. Every time I get to see your dog in the background, it's cute.
Oh, bless him, Gunnar. Sorry, there he is.
Yeah, he's great. Shall we stop there? That's brilliant.
Yeah, if you think that's enough, Morris, that's
I do.
cracking.
I think
Yeah.
people will like it a lot